Talking Tactics brought to you by a few people actually, Woodland Stud and Barristocker getting behind Campbell's Comments, and you want to see some more of these chats, go to campbellscomments.com. I'm fortunate enough to be just out the road at Longley, catching up with the 76-year-old master, Brian Gath. Brian, thank you very much for joining me for 5 minutes, mate.
Oh, you're welcome, Paul. I'll probably enjoy it.
You will. You should enjoy it. To be brutally honest, anyone that knows Brian knows that he's not that keen on these sorts of things. But I think Denise might have brainwashed him to say that this was a good idea. Brian, what I try to do with Talking Tactics, and you got the friendly cocky, but that's okay. We don't worry about that.
He'll slow down.
With Talking Tactics, I just try to showcase what reins people do when they drive a horse in a race. Sometimes we look at a driver and just watch what they do and just say, oh yeah, well he jumped to the front, led and won. And I think we sell ourselves and our industry participants very short in the way of their tactics. Your drive on Saturday night on Miss Mcgonagall, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You jumped to the front. You didn't really stack them up, I suppose. You just kept them going at a nice speed, and you were good enough to win. That's effectively what it looked like on paper. But realistically, there was a lot more went into that race as far as your driving tactics has been able to keep that mare on the bit.
Well, maybe. What helped me a lot, Steve rang me, the trainer, and he explained it to me when I got to the track, a lot about her. And everything he said was right, and I tried to follow it to the letter, and I think I may have got it right. He told me she's in the prelim, she'll shy and prop and look, try and get on the back of a horse. And when I first went out there, she did run around, and I followed another horse, and she was really good. And then he said, if you can pull her up and walk her quietly and get her over on the grass, walk her on the grass, she'll settle down. And she may even stretch out and have a leak, and she did. And then she was real lovely. She walked off, and they turned and went. And he said she's got good gate speed, but not explosive. But she'll wind up and go out of the gate, and and she did. And I challenged very hard, and they drove inside, so I'm not handing up. And I said, well, leave them I just kept pressing on, and I was pretty determined, and he could probably tell I was. And I rolled to the front, and she wasn't the type of mare that felt like you could sit her up and sprint. So I tried to keep her running. Basically, after she had a little restful furlong a bit, I kept her striding just under the top the whole way. And Steve Clark said to me, if you have to, he said, there's earplug string and there's pull downs as well, and he said every time you pull one of those strings she'll respond. So halfway down the back, before they really start to charge, I said I'll get one of these out, and I pulled the pull downs first. Oh, and she sort of grabbed the bit and strode off, and I said, oh, she felt real good. Then I ran the home turn, I felt her sort of labour a little bit again. So I pulled the plugs, and she surged again, and that was enough to keep her that length and a half ahead, And when the challenge come, I thought, oh, she's going to get collared. I wish there was another string to pull. I'm looking for one. But when it got probably a neck away from me, I felt her try real hard. That mare is a good trier, and that's what won the race for her.
So there's a few things I just wanted to point out there, and this is what I'm saying. Firstly, Stephen Clark, and I don't think Stephen will be offended by me saying this, has nowhere near the experience of yourself, yet he gives you instructions, as silly as it sounds, to put the horse on the grass. Now, you're a Group 1 winning reinsman multiple times. You're a Victorian Cup winning reinsman, Inter-Dominion winning reinsman. You've done a lot. You take that filly down onto the grass. You actually respect what the trainer tells you to do?
Oh, yeah, because they live with the horse, they know the horse, and everything like I said, everything he said about her was spot on. And if I didn't do what he said, I don't reckon she would have went as good.
So then, as I said, you jumped to the front, and everything you said was spot on. Some of the little intricacies that you do, Brian, in a race, and a lot of the young reinsmen nowadays, they all lean like you do, and some of them lean further than what you ever did. I mean, you're one of the first to do the lean, but it was pointed out to me that you always play with your fingers from time to time in the run? I don't know whether you're aware that you do it as much, but is that a conscious thing that you're just jiggling with the fingers in the reins?
I move around with my hands to keep their mind on something else. You know, sometimes I might start off with my hands up a little bit shorter, but as soon as I get the chance to come back to my natural grip, I'll do it. And horses feel all that, you know, and then sometimes when you're going down the back and you want them to wake up, don't so much hunt them up or hit them, just sort of move your fingers around and take a sort of a hold of them, you know, pull a bit quietly back in their mouth and let them think maybe they're travelling better than they think, you know, and then they think, gee, I must be going all right, I reckon they think, you know. And now I don't know that anyone noticed that, but I do move my hands around a bit, yeah.
It was noticed. I noticed it, and Noel Ridge, the local Bendigo historian, when I told him what I was coming to do, the one question he wanted to know is what you actually do with your hands, and it's very conscious, because I think one of the reasons for talking tactics is highlighting people's drives, but also trying to encourage people to understand the intricacies of what actually goes on out there, and that's why I'm so appreciative of you giving me a little bit of your time. I did another podcast with you, and you alluded to that you quite often when you drive a horse, sometimes you've got to think about driving them like you nearly stole them, I suppose, is one way of saying it.
Beg your pardon?
Drive them like you stole them, like try and keep the horses up on the bit a little bit.
Well, a horse, you can't let them get right off the bit. You don't want them pulling, but you don't want them off the bit, because once they get off the bit, it's a lot harder to get them back up, you know. But I think my greatest asset is that I talk to them all the time. From the minute I get on the cart, I'll talk to them, and if I see their ears move when I talk to them, when I first get on the cart, and I see them ears go back and they listen to me, I know then I've got a good feel for that horse. And I'll talk to him in the prelim, going to the barrier, in the run, and he knows I'm behind him and he's confident that I'm talking to him nicely. And but then sometimes you've got to change from talking to him nicely to be harshly, and then they get a bit of a shock because I've gone from being quiet to rowdy with them, and they'll spark up because, gee, he's got wild with me for some reason. Yeah, no, I talk to them all the time.
So that talking to them, is that as soon as you climb in the cart, like Melton can be a very noisy shed, or is it when you're walking around to the parade ring, or is it just when you're alone?
I generally give them a pat before I get on the cart, pat their forehead and just say, you know, talk to them a little bit, let them know it's me, and then I get in the cart, and then they know it's me when I talk to them. And I talk to them, I do every horse I drive, even track work, you know.
Just whatever comes out of your mouth?
Yeah, you don't have to, just be nice to them and talk to them, and they listen.
And they, between that and picking the reins up, it just keeps them concentrating and keeps them aware of what you're after?
I think so, yeah.
It's something that stood the test of time for you, and over the years you've done lots of different things. I noticed you did get fined on Saturday night, unfortunately, but with the whip rules changing, both yourself and even Chris Elford now, you do little things to get a horse to go, and I might be wrong, but I don't think there's any set pattern, but whether you put your hands down, the reins down lower around their flanks, like so the reins are a bit lower, or up a bit higher, but you constantly... Are you searching for something to make them find?
You have to change things around, you know. Chrissy's a master at it, you know. You'll see him drive one way tonight, and the next race his style's a bit different. And you can tell when you're driving a horse which way the response is coming, you know. And you can't just do the same thing, drive the same horse every time. You've got to chop and change them around a little bit, you know, I think.
That's something that you've always done over the years? You've always, every horse is different?
Oh, yeah, they're all a bit different, yeah. You've got to treat them nice, you know. Like I said, if you're kind to them, they seem to relax with you, and if you tell them to go, they'll gently do, you know. And
just treat them the right way, and then and then when it gets to a tight finish, like the other night, they put their head out that little bit harder for you?
I think they do. Well, she certainly did anyway.
Over the years, lots and lots has changed. You're 76 years old. You drove that horse like any 24, 25-year-old child. Do you think age has not so much slowed you down, but has it changed you, or do you still think you're a similar driver now to when you were at the height of your career, just maybe not on the same horses?
No, I think I was a lot better then, but I was probably a bit more reckless too, you know. I used to, didn't care what it cost to win. Well, I'm not like that anymore, you know. I follow the rules the best I can. I often bend them, occasionally break them. But no, I was not so much more aggressive, but if I had to push someone out of the way, I probably used to do it. And if I had to tighten someone up to get a position, I often done it. But I paid the penalty, but I mean, we all did that. You know, you probably did too in your day.
Yeah, but I was no big gaff. I can promise you that much. I think I'm better at this job than the driving. That's for sure. I'm actually just looking for something, Brian, just while we go, because I did a talk the other day for the Gippsland Training Centre, and Jenny Lewis. They asked me. They've got a couple of young kids there that are learning to drive, and they asked if I would mind just asking some of these guys when I'm doing my talking tactics, just some of the strange questions. I just got the wrong one off, but they I can't find the question, but it's got to do with choking down.
Oh yeah, well, Paul, if you're driving a horse and he's pulling very hard, no matter how hard he pulls, you've got to try and give him a little bit of relax him, try and give him a bit of rein. Don't just keep holding back tighter and tighter and tighter, even though he's pulling hard. Just give him a bit of rein and let him think that you're helping him a little bit. And if he does start to choke, if you can get him out of the way of the other horses, give him his head. I see a lot of horses choke down in races that shouldn't have choken down, because when they got away from the field and they're still hanging on to them tighter and tighter, that give them the head, let the reins go completely so they'll catch their breath, and they'll often recover and stay on their feet. But if you keep holding them and they're choking, down they go.
Is that one of the tricks when you lean back, but you're still not sitting on their mouths? Whereas like junior drivers now probably lean back and they use the reins to keep themselves balanced, where you used to use your body as balance?
No, you use your body to balance. You don't sit back and retard them, but you've got to sit back and have the horse sort of taking you into the race instead of leaning forward, and he sort of feels like, you know, I don't know what it feels like, but I find if you sit back on a long rein without holding them tight, they start to take you into the race, and you try and just sort of rate that and keep them concentrated. You know? There
is a skill. What is the hardest thing to overcome when you went from trial driving to race driving? So this is eons ago, but I suppose what was the hardest thing for you when you in the beginning to once you realise you're in the big league and taking on the big league guys? Because these a couple of young boys and a young girl that are just starting out on their career, and they just wanted to know what was the hardest part about the initial changeover to the serious racing.
Well, there's certainly a difference, because they don't drive near as hard and aggressive and as tight in trials when you get to the races. When I did, we had to move to the Melbourne showgrounds. So you had to have your wits about you either in a race or a trial. But a trial and a race is not a lot of difference, but there's just more pressure on it.
More pressure?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
What about the difference, and this wasn't the question that was asked of me, but the difference between going from race driving and even potentially country cup driving to group race driving, and the different pressures for group racing?
It's a lot different when you get into the group ones.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of difference. And that's when you've got to be more calmer. You just don't let it get to you at all if you can help that, you know. That's when you've got to treat those big races more like a trial. And don't change
in yourself.
Well, and the tactic and the horse. Don't drive him any different because it's a Group 1 race. If a horse is suited by just dropping in and staying back and get a late trial, don't think because it's a Group 1 race, oh, they're all going now, I've got to go with them, you know, and you're sort of against the flow of the race that they're used to, you know. And I was talking to David Moran the other night before the Victoria Cup, and he calls me Jackie, and he said, "What do you think, Jackie?" I said, "All right." I said, "You'll be right. Just be calm and treat it like a trial, you know." And I think your horse can win, and he thought so too. I didn't he didn't ask me how to drive the race, but I said, just play it calm like you're going out in the trials, just driving, just be relaxed with him the whole way, you know. And he looked like he did.
Is that a measure of, like someone like Dave Moran, who's quite an accomplished driver, doesn't drive a lot? Like, I think, you know, he probably has half a dozen drives a week at the most, but you're sort of the second, third person that I know that he's sought out. Even get the late Gavin Lang gave him advice. Basically, he told him to continue driving the horse. Is that what separates what could look like an average enough country driver to someone that can compete at the Group 1 status?
Well, he's proven he can, and I watch him a lot, and he doesn't appear to do much wrong in any race he drives in. He's pretty cool. He doesn't get flustered. A horse might be coming up outside him on a favourite, and he's not frightened to be boxed in if he thought it was far too early to make his move, where a lot of people would say, oh, I've got to get going, I might get boxed in, I'm on the favourite. That doesn't concern him, what I can see, and that's what Gavin was like. And he looks like he's modelled himself a bit on Gavin, and he won't go wrong if he sticks like that.
Do you think some of the skills that yourself were installed into, you know, with yourself, the late Gavin Lang, and those things, do you think they're starting to slip away from our industry?
Well, you don't come across a Gavin Lang every day of the week. You know, he's about as good as driver that I've seen in the world. I've seen drivers as good as him, but they're not better. And there's not many around like him anymore, but there are some for sure.
But there's a good, you know, you can see enough coming through with other young kids coming through.
Oh yeah, I think because they get a good education. You know, they go to the school and they watch a lot of racing on videos and that, where we didn't have it those days, and they got a lot of good drivers to follow, and we've got a terrific bunch of young drivers. You know, I like watching them drive. You know, James Herbison, he impresses me, and Darby impresses me, and some of the girls. Taylor French, she's a marvellous driver, I reckon, and most of the young ones I've seen are pretty good. I don't doubt any of them. Really, I don't see a poor driver. They're all pretty good.
Yeah, it's a different world, and it's hard. Like, this goes out to social media, and one of my ideas is so people are pretty quick, to bag a lot of drivers, young and old, because it's easy sitting from a keyboard and all the rest. So the idea of talking tactics is purely that, is to probably give an explanation of what happens and why it happens out there. But I must say, Brian, thank you very much. There'll be a lot of guys out there, they'll be wanting us to start reminiscing about the best horses you've driven and that. I did notice there's a pretty dusty photo, I must say, of Franco Tiger in the storeroom behind.
It's getting to be a while ago now, you know.
It is indeed, and I know you're not all that keen on these, so I must say thank you very much. It's just a little program that I like to do, and I appreciate your time. 76 years old. I've asked you off air if you're thinking about retiring, and there's no chance of that in the short term anyway.
I wouldn't think it's going to happen too soon anyway.
Very good, Brian Gath. Mate, I think it's sensational what you were able to do Saturday night, and just keep rewriting history. I think it's great industry, harness racing, when we can have a 76-year-old gentleman still being able to out there and drive. They wouldn't have called you a gentleman about 30 years ago, though, would they?
No, they used to call me a little bugger.
a few other words, I must say, but no, I think now you're definitely a gentleman, and well done, mate. You're a credit to harness racing.
Oh, well, thank you, Paul. It's nice that you come along and have a talk. Beautiful.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.